Hi, Islanders. This is Hana, and welcome back to my island. After my last video about the survivors of Japanese military sexual slavery, I received a lot of messages. Many of you Islanders wanted to know how I really feel about Japan as a Korean. Honestly, it's complicated. While living abroad, I made some very close Japanese friends. And before that, I used to visit Japan all the time for work and just to hang out. Korea and Japan are strange. We are so similar, yet completely different. We are so different, but there's so much we share. But we have to face the truth. We still have a lot of unresolved issues from our past. What's really interesting is when I talk to Gen Z friends, a lot of them say Japan's war crimes are ancient history. They tell me we shouldn't blame the young generation of today, that we should just drop it and move on. Personally, I strongly disagree with that. It's been 80 years since World War II ended. 80 years. And what's happening right now in this world? But Japan still hasn't truly admitted to its war crimes or given a real apology. And let's clear something up that people get wrong. The victims are not asking Japan for money. Korea is rich now. Our economy is right there with Japan. Maybe even ahead. We don't need their cash. Here's what the victims want. Acknowledge the actual facts. Give a sincere apology. And teach the true history to Japan's future generations so this never happens again. But for 80 years, Japan has looked the other way. And right now, Japan is trying to change its peace constitution, the one made right after the war to stop them from invading other countries. They are trying to turn themselves back into a country that can start a war. Here's what I want to tell my Gen Z friends. If we don't fix the past, history will repeat itself. And in the end, it will be today's young people sent off as soldiers. They will be the ones paying the price with their blood. I just want to stop that. So, from a Korean's perspective, I want to share my honest feeling about Japan. I'm going to explain this through modern history and my own personal memories. Please remember, this is just my own story as one single Korean. I don't speak for the whole country. Okay, are you ready? Let's dive in. Maroon 5 once put the Rising Sun flag on their Asian tour website. Fans got furious. The band quietly swapped the image but never even said sorry. Justin Bieber wore a Rising Sun jacket and visited the Yasukuni Shrine, a place where Class A war criminals are honored. His excuse? Oh, I just thought it was a beautiful temple. He just brushed it off. While Western pop stars carelessly show off their ignorance, I grew up learning about the real horrors committed under the flag. I learned about sexual slavery, based labor, and the unspeakable human experiments of Unit 731 all across Asia. Sometimes ignorance is a weapon. Ed Sheeran used the flag in the promo video. People slammed them, so he deleted and apologized. Muse put it in a music video, then quickly fixed it, saying they didn't know about the history. And Marie apologized for taking a photo with a TV host wearing Rising Sun headbands. These repeated mistakes just to prove how numb the West is to Asia's pain. And then there's a Sean Lennon. His reaction was shocking. When Koreans protest the flag, he argued it wasn't the same as the Nazi swastika. He actually told Koreans they needed to get re educated on history. He mocked the victims, hiding his ignorance behind arrogance. This happened because he wanted to defend his Japanese roots, but he was clueless about history. He only saw his mother's flag as art or tradition. He totally ignored the tragic history of the victims. Telling Koreans they need a re education while taking the side of the abuser, that was the peak of insensitivity. Even massive fashion brands like Zara, Maison Kitsune, and Dior have used this bloody flag as some cool oriental design. When a controversy starts, they just quietly pull the item and stay silent. To Westerners, Japan might just look cool, the land of Nintendo and anime. But let's be clear, they were a brutal empire that teamed up with the Nazi Germany and destroyed many Asian countries. For Koreans, Japan's cool culture was forbidden fruit, one that gave us both envy and disgust. The West is so strict about the Nazi swastika, but for the rising sun flag, they are so forgiving, so numb. This terrible double standard proves how unbalanced the world's view still is. As a Korean who grew up in a victim country, it fills me with a deep sadness and a feeling of unfairness. In the 1960s and 70s, Korea was in ashes after the Korean War. We were fighting terrible poverty and hunger. East Asia was the front line of the Cold War. The US chose Japan as its main shield against communism. Because of this, Japan's horrible war crimes were completely forgiven with America's permission. Korea was a brand new country. We desperately needed US protection and money. We were trapped. We couldn't even demand a proper apology from Japan. The 1970 Yodoho hijacking perfectly shows this twisted relationship. It's the background of the Netflix movie Good News. Oh, it's a great movie. You should really watch it. I highly recommend it. Japanese far left terrorists hijacked a plane to escape to North Korea. Under US orders, Korea had to fake Gimpo Airport to make it look like a Pyongyang Airport. Yes, this is a true story. Korea, a divided nation, had to clean up a terror crisis caused by Japan. It showed how unequal our fates were during the Cold War. In that crisis, Korea had to feed its starving people. Our only way to survive was to swallow our pride, beg our enemy for technology, and copy everything quickly. The most famous story is about Chun Jung-yun, the founder of Samyang Ramen. You might know them for the famous 불닭볶음면, 불닭 spicy noodles today. In the early 1960s, Koreans were eating honey pig porridge, 꿀꿀이죽. It was made from leftover ham and extra garbage from US military bases. It even had cigarette butts and chewed gum in it. Ironically, this survivor food is the origin of budae-jjigae, army stew, which even Westerners love today. To save his starving people, the founder went to Japan. He begged a Japanese ramen company called Myojo Foods for their recipe, bowing his head even after they turned him away again and again. It had not been long since the Japanese occupation ended. Having to beg our pasta visual for economic skills, that was the ultimate humiliation for Koreans. We had to copy and observe everything from Japan. Economic models, fashion, TV shows. In the 80s and 90s, books analyzing Japanese society like There's No Japan and Shrinking Japanese were massive bestsellers in Korea. We wanted to study them perfectly just to beat them one day. We read about their polite manners and their two-faced culture. We believe that if you know your enemy, you can win the battle. It was a desperate, intense effort to overcome Japan. A Korean sociologist, Jang Kyung-seop, called this compressed modernity. Western countries built their economies over hundreds of years. Korea had to force it all in just 2 or 3 generations. We didn't have time to grow naturally. We walked to the bone and copied foreign tech to survive in the ashes. Today's miraculous growth is built on deep humiliation and tears. Koreans, we couldn't show our anger toward Japan. Our only outlet was sports. We couldn't beat them in politics or money, but we could physically beat them on the field with the fair rules. So Korea-Japan matches became a crazy war we had to win. Even today, if the Korean national team wins a whole tournament but loses to Japan, the players feel ashamed. When I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, Japanese pop culture was strictly banned by law. The trauma from the colonial era was just too deep. Japan had tried to completely erase our language and our names. The Korean government was terrified that Japan would use their huge money and flashy culture to take over our minds again. It was a strict wall to protect our unhealed wounds. But Korean kids, like me, lived a different reality. We secretly bought poor copied Japan's comic books, smoked superhero tapes, and bootlegged ex-Japan cassettes. By day, we sat in school learning about Japan's brutal war crimes and clenched our fists. By night, we hummed their anime theme songs. It was a crazy double life. But despite this uneven wall, Korean voices were already reaching the heart of Japan. The official doors were closed, but Korean legend dominated Japanese TV. 조용필 sang Come Back to Busan Port, 돌아와요 부산항에 on the famous NHK 고하쿠 우타 cassette. Kim Yeon-ja won loud applause wearing a flash hanbok. They were cheered by the people who once colonized them. Deep down in this culture flow were the Jainichi Koreans. These were Koreans brought to Japan for forced labor or who escaped poverty but couldn't return home after the war. They were forgotten by Korea and hated as outsiders in Japan. To survive, they built the pachinko industry from the bottom up. Lee Mi-jin's famous novel Pachinko, now an Apple TV show, tells their heartbreaking survivor story. But their survivor instinct reached the dinner table too. Even while facing discrimination, they grilled meat over fire to remember home. This became Yakiniku, which Japanese people love today. Koreans also picked up cow and pig intestines that the Japanese throw away as trash. They grilled them to survive. This is the origin of horumonyaki, grilled intestines, in Japan today. Even mentaiko, spicy kudro, a famous Japanese dish, originally went from Busan and became a Fukuoka specialty. Behind the flashingers, these forgotten Koreans secretly pumped Koreans' breath into Japan's veins to survive. So Korea craved Japan's cool city pop and anime. Japan was hooked on Korea's soulful voices and tough food culture. Young people in both countries were secretly enjoying each other's culture, picking over the high level wars their governments built. Then on April 14th, 1991, the bloody truth hidden behind the cool culture hit our TV screens. Kim Hak-sun, a survivor of Japanese military sexual slavery, broke her half-century silence. She gave the world's first public testimony. That same fall, a huge Korean TV drama called Eyes of Dawn aired. It showed the brutal reality of Unit 731's human experiments and sexual slavery for the very first time in Korean society. It hit a 58.4% rating and completely emptied the street. It brought the painful history right into our living rooms. The victim's crying voice and the TV show's brutal scenes were a huge shock to me as a little girl. Korean society needed time to process this. We had just finished 30 years of crazy growth after the war, just trying not to starve. We were finally catching our breath. We didn't know these survivors had been suffering in the shadows all along. We ignored our own pain to survive. When her testimony and the drama came out in the same year, Koreans' bottled up feelings exploded. The secret love for Japanese culture instantly turned into disgust and betrayal. This anger started the Wednesday protest on January 8th, 1992, right when Japanese Prime Minister Miyazawa Kiichi visited Korea. It is in the Guinness Book of World Records as the longest running protest on a single theme. As of 2026, only 5 survivors are left, but the fight for truth continues after 34 years. And the Statue of Peace sits right across from the Japanese embassy, staring straight at them. Before this, Japan always said the crimes were just accidents or private businesses. They completely denied the government's involvement. But her voice woke up the whole world. Soon, victims from all over Asia and all over the world spoke up. It became a global human rights issue. In that time, Japan split in two. The good citizens apologized, but the far right called the victims liar who just wanted money. In 1993, Japan issued the Gono Statement, finally admitting the military was involved. But today, they use this as a shield. They said they already apologized, so we should stop talking about it. They also claim they paid the victims. But the Asian Women's Fund was just a private charity, not official legal compensation from the government. The grandmothers rejected this insulting money, demanding a true legal apology. But Japan hides this and tells the world, we pay them, but Korea keeps whining. By 2026, this history washing is getting much worse. The Takaichi cabinet and the right-wing politicians completely deleted the word forced from school textbooks between 2024 and 2026. Japan's next generation is growing up without even knowing the names of the war crimes their country committed. Ironically, real change came during the 1997 IMF financial crisis. When the country went bankrupt, Koreans brought out their precious gold rings, even baby's first birthday ring, and wedding jewelries. Over 3.5 million citizens gathered 227 tons of gold. It was an incredible act of teamwork to save the country. Because of this resilience, Korea paid back its debt 3 years earlier. This crisis became the turning point where our long struggle finally blossomed. President Kim Dae-jung, the first peacefully elected democratic leader after 40 years of dictatorship, was at the center of this. He rebuilt the economy by building a massive high-speed internet network. He also chose the culture industry as our new survivor plan. And he fully opened the doors to Japanese pop culture with the philosophy of support but do not interfere. Back then, Japan's politics were different from the extreme right wing of 2026. In 1998, Prime Minister Obuchi Geijo signed a declaration with President Kim Dae-jung. For the first time, a Japanese prime minister officially wrote down his deep regrets and heartfelt apology for the past. It was a miracle that happened because both sides had flexible leaders who wanted to face history and move forward. Korean kids love Japanese music. They learned from Japanese shows like Smop Smop, but they did not just copy. They added strict training and created the first generation of K-pop idol like H.O.T., Jackskiss, SES, Finkel, and G.O.D. The results were amazing. In 2002, when Korea reached the World Cup semifinals, it was a miracle. It's never gonna happen again. Korean culture started taking over Japan. The drama Winter Sonata drove middle-aged Japanese women crazy, turning actor Bae Yong-jun into Yon-sama. Teenage Boa topped the Oricon chart singing in Japanese. We finally felt equal to Japan. In the 2010s, I worked as a culture magazine feature editor and flew to Japan a lot. My feelings were still mixed. For Korean creators, Japan was still a huge world. They had 100 million people and a strong craftsmanship spirit called monojukuri. We thought we could never beat Japan's soft power. Japanese brands like Sony and Toyota were everywhere. Back then, foreigners asked me if I was from North or South Korea. They complained about the smell of kimchi. We thought we could never beat Japan's soft power unless North and South Korea united. It was only 10 years ago, but the wall was cracking. Western artists were shocked by the crazy energy of Korean fans. While Japanese fans were so quiet and polite, Koreans went wild and sang every single word together. We call this daechang, singing along.
So freaking easy. All right, so since I'm sorry guys, I've just never seen a crowd sing this much. to utilize it as much as I can. This is when I write songs, I always think about like a whole bunch of people singing it back. So.
One shot, it's a chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime.
Damn it, Korea! On some real shit, Korea, thank you so much for making us feel at home, man. We love you. For real this time. Peace.
We beat their massive money and system with pure explosive energy. While our culture was breaking walls, things were getting ugly behind Japan's peaceful streets. Japanese people have kept voting for a right-wing party, so Japan's right-wing government started erasing history. Anti-Korean protests marched in Tokyo, waving the rising sun flag, shouting, "Kill Koreans!" Politician scientist Kang Sang-jung said this anti-Korean hate was actually anxiety nationalism. As Korean companies like Samsung, LG, Hyundai, Beats, Sony, Toyota, and K-contents blew up, Japan's elite got scared. They blamed Koreans to hide their own failing economy. The scary part is this fear has grown into military ambition by 2026. Japan is breaking its peace constitution to build up its military. Again, the West often think the Dokdo issue is a fair fight between two countries. But that's just a trap Japan set to make it look like a war zone. Dokdo is 100% Korean land, historically and legally. We control it right now. Japanese people need a passport to come to Dokdo because it's Korean territory. Also, the name of Sea of Japan is an imperial leftover. East Sea is the right name. I remember that one of my French friends once told me he lived here for a long time. He lived in Korea for a long time. Oh, Hana, I realized that in Korea, people leave expensive laptops and smartphones on cafe tables, in public space, but no one steals them. Koreans do not claim things they are not theirs. That is why Dokdo is Koreans. Japan keeps claiming Dokdo to build up its military power. By pouring salt on the victims' wounds to prepare for war again, they are putting East Asia's peace in danger. The Japanese occupation and the Korean War burned all our physical history to ashes. But when the digital revolution hit, this empty space became our biggest blessing. Our ruined land was a blank canvas. Korea had no natural resources. Our parents went to German coal mine or Middle Eastern desert to earn money. While Japan got stuck using fax machines and hanko stamps falling into the Galapagos trap, Korea adapted to new tech instantly. This turned Korea into a gaming superpower, creating icons like Faker and the esports world. When NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang visited Korea in late 2025, he remembered selling graphic cards in the Yongsan electronics market 20 years ago.
You know we invented GPU. That's right. All because of esports. All because of Korea. Without PC bongs, without esports, there is no NVIDIA today.
Because of that, in 2026, NVIDIA is prioritizing hundreds of thousands of GPUs for Samsung and Korean companies. The internet cables were laid in the past, became our golden ticket to the AI era. This speed changed our daily lives. Passports take a few days. I got my new passport in 3 days. Official documents take 1 minute to print. This is normal for Koreans. But in Europe or the US, things are different. The same goes for the healthcare. By 2026, Korea has 12.7 hospital beds per 1,000 people, ranking first in the OECD. We also have a 100% electronic medical record system. We can see a specialist the same day for just a few dollars. My friends in the USA and my uncle living in the US, he is a US citizen, and my nephews as well, they wait month for an MRI. In Korea, you get it the same day. Our speed is our true national power. We live through colonialism, war, dictatorships, and rapid growth in a very short time. This extreme resilience makes Korean stories relatable to the whole world. We were the only country that went from a war-torn colony to a rich, democratic, cultural superpower. While Korea built a dynamic democracy, Japan fell into a deep slump. The lost 30 years trapped them. Young people do not vote. To hide this, the government chose deception and history washing. Despite our history, Koreans have always shown empathy. In 2001, a 26-year-old Korean student named Lee Soo-hyun died jumping onto train tracks at Shinokubo Station in Tokyo to save a Japanese person. This beautiful sacrifice broke down walls. Of course, there were good Japanese people too, like lawyer Huse Dasuji. He defended Korean freedom fighters for free during Japanese occupation. He became the first Japanese person to receive Korea's Order of Merit for National Foundation. In 2011, when the huge earthquake hit Japan, we were the first to send rescue teams. But the Japanese government played dirty politics. They erased Korea from their official thank you lists and white paper. Koreans felt betrayed again, as always. Japan also lied to UNESCO about forced labor at their Sado mines. They internationally hid the forced labor period and only registered the Sado mines as an Edo period site. The sadness part is Japan's youth. They learn nothing about why they have a peace constitution at first place. They only learn they were victim of the atomic bomb. They do not know they were the attackers. Philosopher Hana Arendt warned about the inability to think about others' pain. Japanese philosopher Takahashi Tetsuya wrote a book called System of Sacrifice. He said the Yasukuni Shrine turns tragic death into gods, so families cannot blame the government. This stops citizens from thinking critically. Yuval Harari in Sapiens that we study history to realize our current reality is not inevitable. I want to tell Japan this. Changing the constitution for war is not inevitable. It is a tragic step backward by old men who cannot face their mistakes. Of course, there are good voices in Japan. Writer Murakami Haruki said Japan must apologize until the victim said it is enough. And there is a private museum in Tokyo called WAM, the Women's Active Museum. But their brave voices are completely ignored by the massive system. And now there are a lot of young Japanese friends. They are protesting in Japan, in Tokyo, against the Takaichi cabinet and changing constitution. And they said they are inspired by Korean K-pop light sticks protest 2024.
やっぱりその国の歴史、なんでこんなことが起きたのかをやっぱり私たちは知らなきゃいけないし、知った上でやっぱり今世にもちゃんと伝えていかなきゃいけないなと思ったので反対です。
最近の日本のデモが韓国から受けた影響はとても大きいと思ってます。ああいうふうな若者が参加しやすいような仕組みを作ることはとても大事だと思っています。
こういうペンライトとか旗とかを言ったら真似させてもらってっていうのはすごいありがたいことだなと思ってて。
The biggest tragedy is that the young generation will pay for the old government's lie. When leaders hide the truth and seek war, the youth always bleed. Koreans have healed our own wounds. In 1995, we tore down the massive Japanese general government's building. Japan offered to pay to move it, but we said no. We carefully crushed it from the top down with the cranes to protect the palace 경복궁 behind it.
조금 전 70년 동안 조선 전궁인 경복궁을 가로막고 선 채 우리 민족의 정기를 억눌러온 옛 조선 총독부의 상징인 중앙돔 상단 첨탑을 제거해버림으로써
옛 중앙박물관의 휴게실로 쓰이던 건물의 마지막 남은 벽면이 사라지자 지난 70여 년 동안 그늘에 가리워졌던 북악산과 경복궁의 모습이 시원스럽게 드러났습니다.
We slowly crush it from the top down to break our mental chains. We needed that one. We also dug up the iron stakes Japan hammered into our mountains all over country. That is why the 10 million hit movie Ex-Huma Pamyu was so popular. We pulled the stakes out of our own hearts. Now in 2026, Korea has the 5th strongest military in the world according to the Global Firepower Index. We lead the world in tech and culture. We do not fear Japan's shadow anymore. And sometimes I tell foreign friends, if you lose your wallet in Korea and you got nothing and say you're just hungry, anyone will feed you. We suffered hunger, so sharing food means sharing love. This warm spirit survived Japan's cruelty. Japan threw black ink on our white clothes and forced us to cut off our top knots, but our warm spirit survived. Korea is a mix of deep sorrow, Han, and explosive joy, Hung. Japan gave us Han, but we turn it into Hung. We are not nation of sorrow, we are nation of joy. We also know we can change the world. After the 10 million people's candlelight revolution in 2016 and 2017, we showed our power again. After the martial law on December 3rd, 2024, people filled the street for 6 months every single day using only K-pop light sticks. We call it the light stick revolution. When the Taean oil spill hit in 2007, I remember 1.23 million volunteers wiped every rock by hand. During the pandemic, we wore masks not for ourselves, but for our neighbors and family. K-Culture's true power is our high-tech, strong economy, and awake citizens combined. We filled our empty, broken space with the future. So we are no longer afraid of Japan. We do not feel inferior at all. Korea has never invaded another country for our long history. Kim-gu wrote in his book My Desire that we only want the power of high culture. Our strong military today is only a shield to protect peace, not a sword to attack. My Japanese friends were so kind, but their hidden feelings were hard to handle. Now that I'm free from Japan's pressure, I see the truth. Their polite silence is actually a heavy, dark pressure from their strict society. Japan secretly bullies other countries to take down peace statues and rewrite their own textbooks. Recently, a right-wing guy in Korea attacked a statue. We found out Japanese right-wing groups sent him thousands of dollars. Seeing their old leaders, old powers push for war makes me feel pity. We do not beg for their apology anymore. What matters is standing with the truth for a better future. I truly hope Japan can free itself from its own past. Philosopher Carl Jasper said, "You must face your metaphysical guilt to see the light." But Japan hides in a system of irresponsibility pointed out by Japanese thinker Maruyama Masao. Everyone says, "I just followed order. I'm not responsible." No one takes the blame in Japan. If you want to know what a real apology looks like, look at Western German Chancellor Willy Brandt kneeling in Warsaw in 1970. Avoiding apologies means you might do it again. Today, Japan's voters feel helpless and let the old system run. So I send this message to my dearest Japanese people trapped in this system. Korea is still confiscating property from pro-Japanese collaborators. It is our country's way of apologizing to our own people for not protecting them back then. The saddest thing is, the Japanese government has never apologized to its own people for 80 years. They sent the youth to die as kamikazes and bomb their cities. Turning the abusers into gods is their biggest lie. Japan needs to apologize to its own people first. A true apology brings peace to the victim, but it gives true freedom to the abuser. You do not apologize for others. You do it to save yourself. I truly hope Japan escapes its prison of lies and becomes a free, trusted neighbor. Please stop hurting yourselves. I want my sweet Japanese friends to be truly free. Alright, thank you for listening. This has been Hana's Island. You're safe here now. If you like my video, please support me with a like and subscribe. And we will meet again right here. Until then, rest easy on an island that perfectly aligns with your latitude. Take care. Bye.